Yeah, I can dig that. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio, flagship show, Legacy Internet Radio, heard every single Monday right here on these airwaves, every single Monday live at 7 p.m. You want to call us and be a part of the discussion, feel free at 804-402-2893. That is, in fact, the number to dial. Continue to hit us up on our Facebook page, Legacy Internet Radio. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Either of those pages. We're on Instagram, Legacy Internet Radio, one word. Many, many different places where you can be a part of the movement that we have here at Legacy Internet Radio, the fastest growing internet radio station in Central Virginia and beyond. We appreciate the love that we're getting. I want to move on, still kind of keeping with the National Football League, but then not really. We know that yesterday the St. Louis Rams played a football game of which they beat the hell out of somebody. I think it was the Raiders. They won like 52 to nothing. But that ain't the reason that I'm talking about the Rams. There were 5 Rams players who trotted onto the field during their pregame introductions, 5 of them who stood with their hands raised in a show of compassion and solidarity for the Ferguson, Missouri protesters. We know that St. Louis and Ferguson are very, very close to each other. So my guess is if you live in Ferguson and you're a football fan, you're probably a Rams fan. So let's kind of talk about that. One thing that we have not talked about, you and I, Ruben, is the fact that Officer Darren Wilson was not indicted by the grand jury. We got that information while we were live on the air of Ain't No Half Step on Marcus J just a week ago around 9 p.m. And at the time, the folks that we had in the studio, we were all so shell-shocked. We didn't really talk much about it. And then we had a live Green Room version 2.0 with Jay Grizzy and Lissa P last Wednesday where we spent 4 hours talking about it. And in those conversations, you were unfortunately absent. So you haven't had an opportunity to kind of share with the Legacy Internet Radio listeners your opinion as to the lack of an indictment for Officer Darren Wilson. We'll talk about the protests of the Rams players here in a minute, but I wanted to kind of talk about why they were actually protesting and what was the impetus for that. So, Big Rube, your thoughts on what's going on in Ferguson? Any direction you want to take, we can go into it.
I think it's sad that the child lost his life. I also think it's sad that people are tearing up their own city. I mean, you know me, Marcus. You know, I'm pretty much neutral for the most part. I'm a big fact guy, not FACT, fact. I guess my opinion about the whole thing, which I've never really shared to anybody because I'm a little torn. And I think I'm torn because part of me wants to feel like everybody else. And part of me wants to be up in arms and, you know, stop killing our black kids. I want to be that way. I really do. But, man, it's so hard because I'm not sure that I'm torn, you know, because one side of me is like, yo, he really shouldn't have killed that kid. But the other side is like, cops aren't really trained to maim. They're not trained to shoot your leg. They're kind of, if they're going to pull out their gun, they're trained to shoot you and kill you. It is what it is. And I also feel like, wow, man, there could have been something else he could have done. But then I feel like, yo, if that dude hadn't robbed the store, we wouldn't be having any of this. So it's like, I see Ferguson's perspective all the way. I see the right perspective all the way. And you know me, I've been that guy who I'm a fan of personal responsibility. I'm a huge fan of personal responsibility. And this is difficult because I'm not exactly sure that the officer was in the wrong. But I also feel like the kid could have saved himself.
Well, let me kind of jump in here so we can dialogue with you. And I appreciate I appreciate your comment on that. First thing I want to address is he robbed the store. The first thing I'll say to that is, since when does robbing a store result in death? So that's the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing I wanted to say, if you watch the entire video, there's no proof that he robbed the store. That was something that was interjected by the media that got blown up when they only showed a small piece of the video. The small piece of the video showing Michael Brown pushing the guy before he walked out of the store. The part of the video that most people haven't seen because they don't want you to see it is where you see Mike Brown standing at the counter. He's standing there. He's having a conversation with the guy. This seems to be somewhat of a verbal altercation. He walks out. There's no audio there, so there's no way to know for a fact whether he paid or he didn't pay. But one thing he did not do was strong-arm robbery, which is what they're saying he did.
Oh, yeah.
Because,
I didn't say that.
Well, I know that's not what you said, but that's what the media is leading people to believe. There was no strong arm robbery. So if there's no strong arm robbery, we don't know that there wasn't a robbery. We also know that it was not the store clerk that called 911. We know that. It was a patron that was in the store. The store clerk said, I ain't got nothing to do with this. Nothing went down that I want to talk about. And so I would think that if there was a strong arm robbery, if I just got robbed, the first thing I would want to do is call the police. Store clerk never did that. Then you have Mike Brown and his friend in the street based off of the 911 call that came from a patron. And the police are telling them to get out of the street and all of that kind of stuff. And from my understanding, there was some foul language and foul, attitudes between Mike Brown as well as the officer. Mm-hmm. Now, we know that you need to be respectful of an officer, but I honestly know that an officer needs to be respectful of you as well. And oftentimes that does not happen. As far as this particular case is an individual case, there's all this talk about Mike Brown and the officer having this, altercation right at the car. But we also know that Mike Brown was laying in the street and he got shot from a distance. And we also know that he took shots into his head from a distance. And so when I hear those things, I understand when the officers are not trained to maim, they're trained to kill. I get all of that. But when you look at all of the evidence, it's just difficult for me to accept that there was no indictment. You couldn't allow a jury of 12 to look at all of the evidence. You just wanted to have a bunch of people who are looking at the evidence that you, as the prosecuting attorney, gives them. Because, you can't cross-examine anybody. There's no defense attorneys in there. The prosecutor only gives the information that the prosecutor wants the grand jury to have. And so if he gives them all this information that is what he wants or she wants, then of course, especially when this guy stands up and he spends 20 minutes explaining away the reason why he failed to get an indictment. The same officer whose father was killed by a black man when he was a police officer, the same prosecutor who heads an organization that donated a lot of money to the Darren Wilson Fund. I mean, there's so much impropriety here that at minimum there should have been an indictment and let the 12 jurors figure it out. But that didn't happen, and that's the reason why you got people going crazy. I don't condone burning up your town. I think that's the dumbest thing in the world when your neighbor,
works hard.
Your neighbor does some dumb stuff next door, so you get mad by burning your own house down. Like if you personalize that kind of stuff and you think of it from that perspective, you realize how stupid it is to actually do that. But I got to tell you, Ruben, I'm not surprised at it. Because if you know how incendiary these things are and you wait till 9 o'clock at night when you've been promising a decision all day, that to me is so incredibly disingenuous and so incredibly planned. It was almost like we're going to set this up just so that we can say, see, they are in fact a bunch of savages. Check out what's going on there. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah,
It seemed like the fix was in. Ain't no half step on Marcus J. I believe we may have a caller. Caller, are you there? We were getting a call. I guess we might have lost a call. Caller, if you're still with us, call us back. We saw you calling. If you're still with us, try us one more time. Ain't no half step on Marcus J. So that's how I feel about that, Ruben. To that, you say what?
I mean, I understand that. I mean, it's just for me. it's hard to be either way, because to be honest with you, you know, we talked about this before with another case, how the person just didn't follow the instructions and he got shot up and he died. But we have a caller.
We do. We're getting a call right now. Caller, we were actually getting two calls. So 804 call, we see you calling. We got a 201. 201 happens to be from Jersey City, New Jersey. So I know I had to take my hometown first. 804, call us back. Caller, you on the live line. What's your name? Where you calling from specifically?
Hi, my name is Tony. I'm calling from Jersey City, New Jersey.
What's going on, Tony? How you doing?
I'm good. And yourself?
We're doing fabulous here. You know, have Steppin with Marcus J. We appreciate your call. You listening to us? What you want to get in on?
Well, I wanted to get in on just what I can't remember the other gentleman that's on the line with you.
This is Big Road.
Oh, okay. You know, he mentioned something about how Mike Brown could have saved himself. And I'm just curious, you know, when you are up against someone who admits that he was afraid of him, that he was scared, you know, so what could he have possibly done to save himself?
Well, I'm going to be honest, and like I was saying earlier, I am a big proponent of you know, personal responsibility. You know, they had their argument, they had their situation in the street where one was yelling at the other. You know, honestly, that dude's got a gun. You just need to stop,
Definitely.
drop, and roll, or whatever you need to do. You don't need to be yelling obscenities back at the police officer. And for definitely the police officer shouldn't be yelling any obscenities at him. I mean, it definitely got out of control. But the biggest thing is, hey, you just need to stop. I'm sorry, officer. What do you need from me? Because when it's all said and done, that dude has a gun and you don't. And
I definitely agree.
And that's, for me, that's the only thing.
No, I definitely agree with you, because there should be some type of dialogue that we're having with our children, you know, about how they handle themselves when they are, you know, stopped by the police. You know, but, I mean, to me, the whole situation was just crazy, you know, and then the fact that, you know, he pretty much walks away a millionaire. And there's another young black brother that's dead. You know, so that was just my little 2 cents that I wanted to add.
No, I got
you know, but the other thing is, too, about the looting, like, I mean, I totally agree. Why go into your communities and destroy your community? But it's just something in me that feels proud that those people are not just standing by and just taking it.
How do you feel?
You know, I wish they could, you know, use that energy somewhere else, but the fact that they are not sitting down, you know, that they are not making this a moment, but this is a movement, you know, I kind of looked at that as, you know.
Let me ask you a question, Tony. What do you say to the people that are saying, "Look at those black people out there burning up their towns again"? What do you say to somebody that says that, whether they're a black person or not? Because there's plenty of us saying that.
No, definitely, and that's my point. Like, that's the point where I feel like it kind of gets screwed, because at one point I really feel the passion, you know, that they're going out looting, and that they, you know, but you're looting against your own people. You're destroying your own property.
Right.
And I'm not saying, you know, go out and loot their part of town, but what I'm saying is that we have to have a better dialogue, because they are upset, and that's the part that really, you know, touched me, that they didn't just let this go by and say, oh, you know what, this is another black person that got killed by the cops. But I just think that they need to turn it into a different energy.
I agree with that as well.
If that makes sense.
Oh, it does. It does. And it's funny because, like, a lot of people may know, may not know, in the University of West Virginia, when they win a big game, they like throw all their couches out and set them on fire. So, and they burn up their whole city. And it's like, why are you destroying your own stuff when you won? You know? And now we're destroying our own stuff when we lose. I mean, that means we're losing twice. Especially those people especially the people who had the black-owned businesses or the personal-owned business, which they sat there and worked hard for, and then because you were unhappy with the situation, that you just decided, hey, let's just burn our own stuff up and blah, blah, blah. Now, if you went, I'm not saying go to the next town and burn stuff up, but do something else other than burn up your city.
Well, we know that the psychology behind that is way deeper than
Yeah.
Well,
what's on the
why don't you share with us what you think
Yeah, I
that
mean-
psychology is? Because I think I have an idea of where you're going with that. Tell me where you think that psychology is.
Well, that psychology to me it stems from, and I know a lot, and I'm so tired of people saying this. Slavery is over. If I hear one more person say that, I'm going to scream. But that's, to me, that's where it stems from. This was a psychology that was embedded in us, and now that this has happened. Of course, typical. I'm going to go destroy my own stuff.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. No.
Especially,
I get all choked up talking about this because it's just.
No, it gets you heated, doesn't it?
Where we're at.
Yeah, it gets you heated. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Tony, thank you for calling. We appreciate you checking us out.
Yes, thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. I'm loving it in Jersey.
A lot of love from the fam.
Keep up the good work, guys.
Thanks, sis. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. We had that 804 caller that was calling. Caller, if you still listening to us, the line is now open. We'll take your call. There was an 804 call, and you're right on time. The 804 call.
My bad.
They're right on time. So we're definitely in a good place to be able to take that call. So first of all, I want to thank Tony in Jersey City for calling us up, and now we got a new caller on the live line. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Marcus, how you doing? This is Larry calling from Richmond. How you doing there?
What's going on, brother?
Yeah, it's been a while. I listened to your show. I was off the night your show. The first thing that came on my mind was I got to check it out.
That's what it is, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, man. What you want to get in on?
On the Ferguson issue, I was talking to some people. I happen to work at a law firm, majority white, and, we had a discussion about that. And I number one, so agree with you that, why in the world, no matter what we do, if we find the expression or we think it is so necessary that when we get angry, we burn our own stuff down. We tear our own stuff up. I think that is just the most, excuse my expression, asinine thing to do in life. Well, if we're going to make a point about we don't like the way things are or we don't like the way things are going against us, we have an opportunity every 2 years and 4 years to change it. Go vote. Do you know how many people didn't vote in this last election? That the police chief for Ferguson or someone that was up for re-election, and he won re-election because we didn't get out there and vote.
Yep.
We didn't put the pen to the paper to get that person out of office. We always holler about that. We don't like the way things are done, but we don't participate in the system to get things done. Those are things that we don't do. We will always take the path of least resistance. That means tearing our own stuff up to try to get a point across. And why it didn't make any sense at all for CNN, ABC, CBS to show young African-American males with their pants down by their legs, by their knees.
You already know why. But you know what, Larry? Let me stop you because I'm going to tell you. You know why. And I know why. Most people ain't going to keep it 100 and say why, but I'm gonna keep it 100, and I know that you will as well. You know the reason why? The same reason why they released the information at 9:00 at night, because they know they had all of those people out there riled up and spirits up. They made them wait hours and hours and hours. They said it would be 5 o'clock. It was 4 hours later. They got them good and fired up, and then they told them, "What the hell did you expect?" I'm not going to sit here and say, what did you expect, and then expect the negative from our people. But the reality is, anytime you got people that riled up about anything, what you saw is potentially what you may end up getting. And they could have held that off until the next morning, Larry. They could have done that, but they didn't.
Yeah, but I'm just saying is we as a people need to learn, number one, there's a better way of doing things. And I tell, the young kids and the young guys that I talk to and I interact with, I said, look, people already think you're crazy anyway. Don't give them the ammunition to justify, to say, yeah, that's the way he is.
No.
we have got to find, and the more listening to shows like this is an avenue that we can vent our frustration, but yet we can still learn something also.
Yeah, well, we also can brainstorm ways to be more productive, to actually come up with some sort of solutions as opposed to going out there and act crazy. Hey, I've got a partner of mine that's listening to us in Jersey. We got Hakeem in Jersey City. He's listening and he's loving what you're saying, Larry, because he's saying he totally agrees with you, the ballot or the bullet. But he's also addressing something that I just said, Larry. I want you to address this, and then I got to let you go. He's saying that they waited until security was in place as best it could be before they released it at 9 o'clock. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is they could have done it a lot better. Yes, security was in place and everything else. I understand it, but you know what? If we were a people that had common sense, not only black people, but white people, but young people in general, no matter what the verdict is, protest, I have no issue with that at all. Speak your mind. You know, let the people know that this was an unjust decision. But then, you know what? Make it constructive. Don't tear your stuff up all to pieces.
Right.
Don't go out here and be so uncouth. You know, you have a daughter. I have a child. If I saw mine out there, she wouldn't have to worry about the cops getting her.
Yeah, she had to worry about
You know what
daddy.
I'm
She had to
saying?
worry about daddy at home.
Yep.
One more
right.
comment. One more comment. I want you to comment on. We're getting something on social media because there's another people listening to you, Larry, and they're digging what you're saying. But I want you to address something. Tony is listening to us, and she said getting them out of office is not the solution. Now, I personally don't agree with that. I want to know if you do and what you think about that comment.
Oh, look, she said she doesn't agree with that. Oh, here's the thing about it is, people that are in power, policymakers, people that have the ability to make change, they are in those positions. And you know what? The people that want them in those positions are going to work hard enough to make sure they get there. We, by sheer numbers, have the ability to change that and say, you know what? We want our people in office, people that are more sympathetic to our causes, put them in the office so that when those changes need to be made, they're there, and we hold them responsible because we put them in office. We can sit back and talk all day long and talk all night long, but if we don't have them in the places that we need them to be, then we're going to constantly keep going through this.
Now, the thing to that, Tony, I agree with what you said, Larry, but the thing, Larry and Tony, that is important is once we do put the people that we want in positions of power, we actually do have to hold their feet to the fire. It's none of this, you got there, now you got the job. If you're in Congress, you sit there for 6 years. It's none of that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of see, people think that once they go to the polls and vote, their job is done. You know what I mean? That's not it. That's not the end of it. If you're going to be part of the process, then you got to be part of the whole process. When you get those papers to go do jury duty, go do jury duty and be excited about it. Go serve on the grand jury. Go serve on the 12-person jury. You know, you have to be a part of the entire process because if you're not,
that's correct.
Yeah,
you have to be engaged. You
Yeah.
have to be engaged because if you're not engaged, you're disengaged. You don't know what's going on, and that's what most politicians and people like that count on you to do. We'll be there for that 4 years or 2 years, but after that, we lose touch of what's going on, and we got to stay engaged. Enjoy your show, man. I'll definitely be listening to you.
Appreciate it, Larry. Have a good one, brother. And you know how Steppin with Marcus J. I appreciate everybody. We appreciate everybody that's listening to us. Thank you to Tony and to Larry for both checking in. My sister Melanie is checking in the Shy. Melanie says the politicians have money. We don't have money. Therefore, we don't have leverage. We are not able to come to the table and make them listen because we don't have a strong economic base. When we have a strong economic base, we see what happens. Everybody will be after you because they want the green. Most politicians speak green. 101,000,000% agree with that. I've always said that the way that you reach the people in power is to affect their money. And the way you reach anybody basically is to affect the money. One thing that I was going to hold on to this until later on in the show, but I think it's a good time. I mentioned that we're going to do it this day in history kind of segment here on the show for a little while and see how you guys like that. I think now is a good time for it. This day in history on December 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks said, "Hell no, I ain't moving," and she went to jail for it. And when she said, "Hell no, I ain't moving," she didn't do that so that she can start some sort of great movement. She did it because her feet hurt. She did it because she took a stand about something. She did it because she realized how that she was being treated and how everybody else was being treated was inappropriate. And so she said, no, I ain't getting up. And what that ended up leading to was the Montgomery bus boycott that lasted for over a year. It was one of the times in the 50s where we as a community came together for a common reason, not to burn shit down, but for a common reason, and said, you know what, we're going to pool our money together. And you saw what happened. I've always said this. Every single time you had a major change in the way we as black people are treated in this country, it had some sort of economic component. The abolishment of slavery wasn't about the benevolent Abraham Lincoln. It was about him trying to cripple the South, money. The reason why there were the buses in Montgomery started treating folks right and letting them sit where they wanted to sit was about money. They boycotted. They saw how much money they was losing. The Civil Rights Bill. Okay, 1964, you had Lyndon B. Johnson. He signed it. It was all great. But you know what? Now that black folks can have the right to do whatever they want, guess what else they got the right to do? They can spend their money wherever they want. And so let's keep that in mind before we start, thinking that, money doesn't mean anything and no, it's not okay to boycott. Why I still need to get that big screen TV. You got to think bigger than that, people. You got to think bigger than that. Ain't no how Steppin with Marcus J. All right, y'all, we're going to take our first break of the night. And when we come back, we got some more to get to. We got a lot of show here for y'all, and we're glad you're tuning in. Marcus J, Big Ruben, our special friend who just walked in, we'll introduce to you on the other side. And how Steppin with Marcus J. Be back in a few minutes.